This is Uncommonly Remarkable. We have surprisingly casual discussions about the lives and notable accomplishments of community leaders, entrepreneurs, and everyday folks like you and me. Think of this podcast as an opportunity to learn something new and to pick up on an entrepreneurial tip or two through open conversation. I'm Artis Beatty. I'm a doctor of optometry and the chief medical officer for My Eye Doctor OD. Though we will inevitably touch on topics within my area of expertise, the opinions and conversations held here are separate from my work with My Eye Doctor. Welcome to the show. What if learning music didn't have to be painful, slow, or reserved for the naturally talented? Today on Uncommonly Remarkable, I'm joined by Patrick Boylan, multi-instrumentalist, educator, and the founder of Museflow, a groundbreaking music learning app that's rethinking how we teach and experience piano. Patrick's journey is a wild one, from hating 8 years of traditional piano lessons to building a company that's helping people fall in love with music again through science, flow rate, and AI-driven feedback. We talk about what really helps people learn, why perfection is overrated, and how democratizing music education could change everything. Whether you're a musician, a creative, or just curious about how the brain works, this episode hits all the right notes. Ladies, gentlemen, all you remarkable people, please welcome Patrick to the show. People who know me know that I'm interested in music. I walk around, I sing all the time. Not that it's great, but I like singing.
That's all that matters. That's all that matters.
And I grew up playing instruments. And so music is kind of core to me. So this is going to be a really cool conversation because I think we get to talk about a lot of things, from learning music to how the brain works around it, to understanding a little bit about science and technology, things that you've been working on to help other people be able to do this fun thing.
Yeah, let's dive on in. This is going to be a great conversation.
So maybe we should start by talking a little bit about who you are and how you got to where you are today, right? So talk a little bit about Patrick.
I'm also a multi-instrumentalist. Mainly, though, I play piano and I sing. Those are the two things that I do on a regular basis. I've got 3 residencies here in Los Angeles. We call them residencies because they're just reoccurring gigs. Like I've got a night that I play at this restaurant, a night that I play at this restaurant. Every weekend I play over at this piano bar and like those kind of things. It's just like reoccurring gigs.
Sure.
That's what pays the bills. And then during the day, I'm building a music education app that's based on the way that I taught myself how to play piano. And that's called Museflow. And so I'm building that with some friends and it's going really, really well. We've already built it. It's out there. We're just scaling it at this point.
Wow. So when did you get into music? Was it a lifelong thing for you?
It's been since like 8, I think. I asked my parents for private lessons and they say, Pat, it's a lifelong hobby. And I said, yeah, I want to do it, knowing what a lifelong hobby is at 8 years old.
Yeah.
No, I have no clue. What am I doing? I have no idea what I'm getting myself into. And so I got into it and I hated every second of it. Like, I'm so curious to hear your perspective on private lessons. For me, it didn't work for me because I was learning each new skill only in the context of specific songs that my teacher assigned to me. I wasn't able to apply that skill, whether that's a new note or a new rhythm, being able to see that on a page and then being able to replicate it easily and fast. I wasn't able to do that outside the context of those specific songs my teacher was teaching me. Was that the same for you, or how was it for you?
Yeah, it's so for me, I was probably in 5th grade, I think, when I came to my parents and said, I need for you to buy the most expensive instrument in the band. I need a saxophone, and I am going to learn to play the saxophone. And right out of the case, it was pretty much the same thing. It was I would go to class and we would work on progressions and we would learn these pieces of music. Like we'd learn the notes and then we would try to put them together. And for me, it wasn't individual lessons, it was group stuff, but then you can only move at the pace of the group, right? And so like if you're the holdup, nobody likes you because they want to move forward, but then if you're the guy who's gotten it, now you're sitting in there looking at everybody else like, what's wrong with you? And so it was kind of a back and forth push pull thing for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that sort of like peer pressure of it all is very interesting. Where it is, in my opinion, a very personal endeavor, learning an instrument. It's very
Yeah.
it should be more personalized than sort of like what is the group, just the general group dynamic. No, it's not about that. Granted, playing in an ensemble is like so fun, and that's really where the joy of making music for me comes from. It's playing with others, it's singing with others, it's creating with others, collaborating on that. But at the same time, the learning of it, I don't know if you can learn in a group setting, again, because it is such a personal journey.
That's right.
Everybody moves at different paces.
And so your musical instrument of choice was piano?
To start, yeah. And then I moved into clarinet. So in 5th grade, I decided I wanted to do clarinet, or it was 6th grade or something like that. I think it was 6th grade. We weren't allowed to do saxophone right off the bat. We had to do clarinet, and then we were able to like move to another instrument after that. I don't know why clarinet was the main reeded instrument that we had to do. Like, I don't know. Maybe saxophone was one of them. Yeah, I'm not sure. I know I wanted to play oboe. That's the biggest thing. I wanted to play oboe, and I couldn't do that before I had to play clarinet. I just got stuck on clarinet. I never learned oboe.
Well, that's the thing. Like there is definitely a method to the madness when it comes to instrument selection. At in 5th grade, like how old are you in 5th grade? Like 11, maybe?
Sure,
is that right? Something like that. You don't know. Like you're just following the instructions, right? But I think I did. So I never played piano formally. I went to church every Sunday with my parents. There was a pianist at church, and she would let me sit beside her sometimes, and I would sit beside her, and I would learn things. And I could play a lot of the hymns, and I could do a lot of the music from church that was traditional because I spent so much time sitting at the piano doing that, but never did anything formal. With the band and ensemble instruments, I started with saxophone, and the great thing about saxophones is they make soprano ones and they make tenor ones and they make baritone. So I played all those, but then it was very cool to me to figure out what my friends were doing with the brass instruments. And so I started messing around with euphonium and with French horn. And then I ended up back at clarinet, and I played contrabass clarinet because you got to sit on the stool.
Yeah, you got to sit on the stool. Yeah.
So you were taller than everybody else. So that was kind of cool for me. And so I did a lot of back and forth and doing a lot of instruments. But the thing about it was, for me, that I had a formal instruction for saxophone, and that became the building blocks. And everything else was kind of like, now that I know the basics of this one, what part of that can I take and move it to this one and make it work? Right. Mm-hmm. And so it was one of those things. It was trial and error, understanding a little bit about the differences, but eventually you can move around and get most things to work the way they're supposed to.
Yeah. There's a lot of people. I have a couple of friends that work in pit orchestras. They are wind instrumentalists in pit orchestras. So they can play clarinet, they can play bass clarinet, they can play saxophone, they can play oboe. They're the like wind person for the pit. And the thing about the pit is like you have to be able to kind of move between all these instruments. That's a big selling point of any instrumentalist when it comes to being employed by a pit orchestra, right? Or in a pit orchestra, is that you can play all these different instruments. So it is very common for those people, though it is to like learn one instrument and then apply the skills that they've learned in that one instrument to all the other instruments that they want to learn. But it is rare that they start on an instrument like sax, because you're reading in treble clef, right? Yeah. And then like you say contrabass clarinet, you're reading in the bass clef.
Bass clef, yeah.
So the thing about piano and why it's so universal is because you're reading in both bass and treble clef at the same time. And so when you learn piano, it is other instruments are more accessible because you already know how to read Western notation in both clefs.
Oh, that makes sense. That does make sense, because that was arguably the hardest part, right? Is when you learn treble clef, and then having to learn I mean, because it's transposition, right? So you're just taking the lines and moving them up. And so you can do it, but it was not reading music, which we should talk about this in Museflow too. Reading music it becomes second nature. It's like reading a book. And so when you change clefs, you can change the book language. And until you get used to the book language again, it's very difficult to do. And so, but it was not something that you couldn't learn, right? And when you're trying to do it on your own, you figure out, well, nobody's going to sit here and teach me how to do this. So let me figure out what the difference is. And really, it's math. You just transpose. And so,
that's so awesome. That is unique. I don't know if anybody's ever really described reading in different clefs in terms of transposition. You're the first person that has ever explained it that way to me.
Well, it's probably because, I'm a scientist at heart. And being a clinician, I kind of think of things in a logical sense. And so I've always applied it that way, right? So, I would look and I see patterns very easily. And so I would look at the treble clef and I'd look at the bass clef and I would be like, oh, well, if I count this on every note I see on bass clef, it matches what I see on the treble. It's a math thing. So now I know where I am, right. And then I could follow along.
So interesting. Cool. Love that. That's very math forward, very scientific forward. A very interesting interpretation of the bass and treble clef. I love it. I think it's so cool.
Well, talk to me though about your education and your background though, because you decided you were going to play piano, and did you just have a piano like laying around? Like what made you start with piano? Yeah,
we had an old beat up upright piano in our living room growing up. It was given to us by a family friend who played at a piano bar in Chicago. That's where I grew up, in Chicago. And so this family friend, Joe Krieger, shout out to him. He's kind of a mentor for me. He's a pianist. He does exactly what I do, but in Chicago. Plays at a bunch of different restaurants, plays at different piano bars, and he does church. He does church on Sundays as well. He leads their choir and plays piano for them. And so he gave us this old, beautiful, like bright piano. Like it sounded very tinny. Because it's been banged on for years and years and years. And there were these big old like sweat stains from cups, like glasses that were like on the piano everywhere, because everybody just like went around the piano for him, that they were all hanging out around the piano and they put their glasses on it. So we inherited that. Yeah. It's a beautiful.
That's pretty awesome.
I love that thing.
And then you did this, you did the private lessons, and for how long?
8 years.
Wow.
8 years. And my parents, they really made me commit to that lifelong thing. They were saying it's a lifelong hobby, and they grounded me if I didn't practice.
Well, at that point, it was half your life, right?
So. Yeah, right. Right, totally. And they really made me commit to it. And look, I thank them every day for it, but like that is not the optimal way to get a kid to learn how to play an instrument. I took 8 years and I hated it. I really did not like it. It was such a drudge, and I had to really the word discipline was very much a part of our household at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of hate that word when it comes to music education, because the goal of music is to inspire, right? And in my mind, if I want to learn how to play an instrument, I want to be inspired to learn how to play the instrument. So the problem was with the pedagogy. The problem was with the way I was being taught. And so I ended up going back to music after those 8 years of lessons. I went back to my parents' sheet music. They had a bunch of musical theater scores. And so after all these lessons, my teacher retired. And so then I just started flipping through this music that we had, trying to learn every note by note by note. And eventually I found a little pattern that I really loved. And then I closed the music and I just played that pattern over and over, improvising around that pattern. I put it in all these different musical contexts. I put it in my right hand. I put it in my left hand. I inverted it. I played it backwards. I slowed it down. I made it faster. I made it loud. I made it soft. I really just fleshed it out, right? Improvising around it, adding more to it. And I was like, wow, that was really, really fun. And so I kept doing that over and over and over, doing these improvisations.
That's amazing.
And that was what really taught me how to play.
Yeah.
Not the traditional lessons. That process was what really taught me how to play, because when I got to college, I was the only acting major that could play piano. And all these musical theater people were throwing music in front of me being like, I want to practice this song. I want to practice this song. And I'm like, cool, let's do it. Let's see what this song is all about. Right. And so they throw it in front of me and I start playing it and they're singing it and I'm playing it. They're singing it. I've never seen the song before. And we get through it and they're like, that was great. Have you ever seen that song before? And I'm like, no, never. They're like, wow, that was really good. I realized that I was doing this sort of iterative digesting of those little phrases.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing that to like the core building blocks of musical theater, to the core building blocks of that genre, so that when I saw that pattern or that motif or whatever I was repeating over and over and over in all these different musical contexts in this very flow-like way, I was able to play that in that new song at that point, by sight, at first sight, string them together. And so that is really what taught me how to learn. That's what really taught me how to play. Is that that's iterative digestion of it, That's
really interesting though, because people talk about muscle memory all the time, right? Like you do some of the things that you repeat over and over again, you stop thinking about those things, even if it's a difficult skill. Right. Because it becomes kind of innate. It's sub-programmed. You understand exactly what it is that you should do. In the sense of the music that you were reading and playing, you had developed some of that based on the repetition of the particular types of phrasing or little riffs that would be part of that music type.
Mm-hmm.
So how much of it do you think is the repetition and the practice, and how much do you think is just your innate talent though? Because when it comes to skills like playing piano or people who sing very well, or there's a lot of talent that's kind of baked in there, and it can be a little bit intimidating for a person who is not necessarily known for their talent for doing that to think, oh wow, maybe I could do that too.
I think it's, as is everything, nature versus nurture, right? I think nature does have a part of it. You can have a predisposition to being really good at playing multiple rhythms. You can be a really good dancer. You can have rhythm just so innate within you. And some people are incredible with pitch. Like one of my great friends who doesn't sing anymore, she has some of the most incredible ear that I've heard. When she sings, she is so on pitch. She is not flat. She is not sharp. She is right there in the core of the note every single time, no matter what she sings. Blows my mind every single time, because she hasn't taken lessons in decades. She hasn't been in a choir in years. She hasn't sang professionally or semi-professionally in like a decade, right?
Right.
But she can still do it. And I think that's just a part of her nature. I think she has an incredible tonal center, and she has her understanding, her ear of that is just so pre-programmed to understand it in such a unique way and very nuanced way. Whereas I don't know if I had a lot of predispositions to music in general. My parents were artists. My dad's an actor and a singer, and my mom was an actor in college, but then she realized she had massive stage fright, and so she went into news broadcasting. Right?
Oh no!
So she then became a producer of news. She produced the news for years, and then went into true crime. Right. So she writes documentaries for true crime. Nonetheless, two very, very artistic people, and she also sings too. And so I may have had a predisposition to being interested in music, but I don't know if it was ever pre-programmed, like I don't know. It's hard to kind of describe, because like I think it's a sliding scale on both ends, right? The people that are more likely to be really good musicians, and then if that is cultivated, then they become really great musicians. But then the people that are not at all pre-programmed to be really good musicians, they can still work really hard at doing it and overcome their limitations and surpass the people with innate talent. Because I do think talent also becomes a crutch for a lot of people. They're like, oh, I can just rely on my charisma, or, oh, I can just rely on my innate talent, right? And then so they don't work on their skills, and then they hit a plateau and they don't really know how to work at their skill. So they never go surpass it. I have some friends who are like that, unfortunately.
And I think you're right about that. I think that there's definitely a difference in skill that is built and skill that is, we'll call it given, and the development then of the end product can be equal, or sometimes because you've worked very hard at it, you can surpass the given skill. Mm-hmm. The reason I asked that question though is really around the way people react to actually being in lessons. So, like if and I don't know exactly like when you grew up, but like for me, there was always wow, you got that right. Let's move to something different. And there was always that's not so great. In fact, that's really bad. And so now we're going to have to spend a lot of time making that better. And, when you get the that's right thing, you're very excited about it. And you're like, look at me. And when somebody says, man, that's really bad, you don't know what to do.
Oh my God. I don't know if I would ever have known. I don't know if I had a teacher that was like, wow, Pat, that was really bad.
That's probably because you were much better at it.
You actually had a teacher tell you, oh man, look, you're really bad at that.
Yeah.
Oh,
but you know what? Sorry. But and at the time it was not. It was probably not great. I mean, it's hard to tell a 12-year-old how bad they are, right?
Yeah.
But but it helped to solidify, okay, well, if I want to be good at this, I'm going to have to really work at it. Or and so you have to make that determination. Am I going to continue to go forward, or is this telling me I should just not do this because I'm bad at it? And so so it can be one of the, but I think the psychology around learning in an environment where you get 100% praise is not great, right? But learning in an environment where you get constructive feedback is probably the best environment to be in, because otherwise you never push yourself to get beyond those things that are difficult.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the Montessori technique of teaching?
I have. Yeah, I have.
So they're all about praising progress over perfection. And we use that in Museflow. We care deeply about progress, not perfection. You need to get 4 phrases of music at 95% accuracy in a row to be able to pass a level. Okay, we've gamified it in a way, but we're not asking for perfection. We're asking for 95% accuracy. Okay, we think that 100% accuracy we care too deeply about perfection in our culture, in our society. And we want to instead be able to say, wow, we recognize you worked so hard to attain that goal. Great job. Instead of saying, wow, you did it perfectly. Great job. There's a difference.
Yeah.
In that type of praise, right? And so we, again, and I think humans are just so pre-programmed to care so deeply about the negative than the positive. It's what's kept us alive for hundreds of thousands of years.
That's right.
Fear or flight or freeze, right? That reaction has kept us alive for hundreds of thousands of years. And so naturally, evolution has really programmed us to care deeply about negative reactions, right? And so because of that predisposition, we never give negative feedback. We only give positive feedback. We give positive feedback on the progress you're making, not the perfection you've attained.
Well, that's really interesting. So let's talk then more specifically about Museflow, because you've kind of hinted at some of the things that are involved, but maybe let's kind of break it apart. So it's an experience that's based now specifically for piano. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, we're going to make it for all common instruments, but right now we just made it for piano.
And so the user is given lessons, or is it lessons, or is it techniques? Is it like, what is it that the user is experiencing?
So here's how we're switching the paradigm. We're moving away from teaching songs. We're letting that be the byproduct of teaching you the skills outside the context of songs. So that when you get to a song, you can apply the skill that you've learned outside the context of songs. The only way that we've had to teach music is through song. For thousands of years, it's been steeped in this tradition, and we wanted to break out of that. What I used as my engine of my curriculum, let's call it that for lack of a better term, right? The engine of my curriculum after those 8 years of lessons was improvisation. I was kinesthetically learning the rudiments of musical theater in this very improvisational way. I was putting those rudiments in a multitude of contexts, and I was really learning it outside the context of songs so that when I got a chance to see that rudiment in a song, I could then replicate it because I'd had improvised in all these different musical contexts.
Yeah.
So what we use is what's called sight reading, the act of reading music at first sight. Okay. So we can teach you how to read Western notation in 7 minutes. That is level 0. We say, here's a keyboard. Your keyboard may be different sizes, but this is middle C. Play that now. Great job. And then we move on from there, right? We say, these are the lines of the staff. This is where middle C is in the treble clef. This is where middle C is in the bass clef. Great. Play those immediately. It's called just-in-time learning. What we realized is that you give you the skill and then you immediately apply it. Okay. We don't care about the theory just yet. We'll let you get down that road a little bit later, right? But right now, we want to get that kinesthetic understanding of that note related to what you're seeing on screen, right?
Got it.
And then we get you in our first lesson. The first level is middle C, played with 3 different rhythms, quarter notes, half notes, and whole notes. And we teach you what those are. And we get the time going, right? We get that metronome counting with the cursor that's right there on the screen pulsing. And then you start to play and the cursor moves across the screen. Music is generated in this, it's always changing. It never repeats, so that you're learning this note and these 3 rhythms, not in this sort of rote way. You're learning it, again, outside the context of a specific song.
Sure.
Right? So that you're flowing, you're going, you're reading music that is right there at first sight. And you got to get 4 phrases in a row at 95% accuracy at the goal tempo to be able to pass that level. The next level, we add D in the right hand. The next level, we add B in the left hand. So now you got 3 notes and your first song is unlocked at that point. At the end of level 3, you can then play 4 songs that we unlock in the repertoire section so that you can apply what you've learned already to songs. And then you do the process over. We add another note, add another note, add another rhythm. We add another time signature. We add another note, another note. We add harmony at that point. Okay. We add polyphony is what it's called. Poly, multiple phonic notes, multiple sounds, playing multiple, you're playing 2 notes at one time, right?
Yeah.
And then you continue and progress and move forward. And by the end of unit 1, you're learning, you have 14 notes, 3 time signatures, and you're playing in harmony with yourself. And all the songs that we've unlocked throughout that game, you can then apply the skills to those songs, right?
That's pretty amazing.
So we are just adding another step before songs. But the key here is that the music never repeats. The music is always being generated so that it is constantly keeping you at that where the challenge meets your skill level. We're slowly progressing you through these new skills and letting you apply them immediately to this ever-changing music at first sight, so that when you have a song that's unlocked at that level, you can then learn it so much faster. That was a huge issue with me with traditional lessons. I was learning how to practice songs. I wasn't learning how to play those songs, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense, because there's a difference, and it's a subtle difference. But once you understand the difference, you really do see that if you're like rehearsing to play a song is a lot different than learning the song. And it's I think about it in terms of singing things, right? Like if you're going to sing things, like when if you're just rehearsing if you're learning the song, you're thinking about all the emotional piece. You're thinking about all of the different parts that go into it versus if you are just learning the lyrics or learning the rhythms or the notes for that song.
Right. Totally. Yeah. I think because then if you're just learning the song to play it like technically proficient, right, you're not getting to the fun part, which is musicianship. It's, well, why do you want to play it that way? And how do you want to play it that way? You get to choose how you want to tell that story. And sometimes a lot of it's often written down for you, right? It's often written down, you got the crescendos, decrescendos, this is staccato or legato, whatever, right? You've got all of the dynamics and all of the articulation. But then underneath that and inside of it, you can choose the multitude of ways that you can play that crescendo. And that is really where the fun part of playing music is. So yeah, so it was one of those things where I was realizing that I was learning how to play those songs just technically by rote. Yeah. And I wasn't having the fun of being able to play. It was only in private clarinet lessons where my teacher was like, okay, cool. You're successfully playing the song technically proficient. Let's talk about musicianship at this point. Let's talk about dynamics and crescendos. Let's really flesh it out for, what the competition that we did was solo and ensemble. Right. And so we always did that. And so my solos were so fun because I was able to just truly tell that story and care about the emotion of it all. Again, at the end of the day, it's just storytelling, right? Reading is reading. Yeah. If you didn't know how to read, then you can't really tell a story. Now, let's get you to a place where you can read proficiently and fluently, and then you can really imbue those words with emotion. It's the same analogy with music, Let's imbue the music, the notes that you're playing with the emotion behind it. We just want to get you there faster.
But when you think about doing it the way that Museflow does, do you think it plays with a different part of the learning structure or the way the brain processes learning? Since you're trying to build a flow to be able to get into, the gamification is there's a reason that games are fun, right? And so talk to me a little bit about how you think about that relative to learning and how Museflow is set up to enhance the way people learn.
If you're always battling against the process of being taught, you're automatically set at a disadvantage. Okay. Now, if you're relaxed and you're open and you're enjoying the process of skill acquisition, that's a whole different story, man. That's a whole different ball game. Like I said in the beginning, or I don't even know if I said it when we were recording, but I might have. Discipline is not even a factor at that point. Because you're being inspired, you're wanting to learn, you're wanting to get into that flow. So what we do is we make sure that skill that you're learning is at what is called, we call it the flow zone, again, for lack of a better term, right? Where the challenge, it's the Goldilocks zone of challenge, right? Where the challenge is just so perfectly attuned to what you've got in your skill bank right now. It's just a little bit outside of your skill range so that you're not frustrated by how hard what you're learning is. And you're not bored because it's just so easy, right?
Right.
You can find where that is for yourself. We're going to automate that process a little bit later down the road where we get you into a flow and you're playing phrases that slowly but surely just ratchet up the difficulty, and then you're there in that flow state. Cool. That's where we land you in that level. Okay. That's going to be a little later, but right now you can find where that skill that you want to learn matches your understanding or your knowledge, your skill bank, right? And so, that flow state, what it does is it lowers your heart rate. When you're challenged just a little bit outside of your challenge zone, you're engaged in the present, you're focused, you're dropped into that groove where you lose a sense of time and your heart rate lowers. It's more of a meditation than anything. And when you're in that state, skill acquisition just skyrockets through the roof. It opens you up and you don't care about failure at that point. Failure just is a part of the process.
Yeah.
It just rolls off your shoulder. You know, we care so deeply about, we're so scared of failure at this stage of our society that like we freeze, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's one thing that we're trying to battle with it, is they try to get you in that zone where you're just dropped into that groove and you're open to skill acquisition in such a more foundational way.
That's such a, I mean, that fear of failure is such a common theme. You know, I get to speak to a lot of people who are at different stages of life, who've done lots and lots of amazing things, cool things, things like you've done. And thematically, there's a conversation that always happens around being afraid to fail. So people, they give in to the fear and they don't actually push to be successful. And so thinking about how you're approaching teaching people, understanding that that's kind of innately how people respond is really cool, because it does speak to everything that I've now learned about how people process information and how they make decisions on what they're going to do next. And a lot of that is based on, some of it is based on, I'm just afraid people are going to say I was bad at it. And so they just don't do it. And so I love what you're doing and the feedback that Museflow gives, but I also love that you're setting it up so that people are less likely to feel like they're going to have failure before they even start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Because, and I think that zone is dependent on so many different factors. It's so personal to your own abilities and to your own predisposition for how much failure can you actually take, right? In the moment. Personally, my threshold is very low. I don't want to mess up so much. I don't. I clam up. My heart rate skyrockets and adrenaline starts going and I freak out, right? I freeze. And it's flight a little bit. It's flight and freeze for me. So I don't like a lot of challenge. Just sorry. I'm not sorry. Like that's just how I am.
That's
right?
Yeah.
Whereas I've seen people play a song that they've never seen before and they get 40% accuracy. And they say, wow, that was a great song. Very fun. Let me try again. And, you know, this is a really cool thing about Museflow is that, again, your ability to play a song that gets unlocked at the end of the level is much higher. Just being able to play it at first sight. Even though this guy, so he ended up playing a level 16 song that got unlocked right after he finished that level. He went on in and he started playing that one song. And again, he got 40% accuracy, but all this failure, I was watching him and I was like, oh my God, I would be freaking, I would stop. If I was,
I would stop.
Yeah. If I was, and I was like about to tell him, I'm like, okay, no, you don't have to, don't worry. But no, he just kept going. And I was like, what is going on? Got to the end of the song, said, wow, that was really cool. That was really fun. And he immediately restarted the song, played it again, and he got 85% accuracy at that point.
And that's what it's all about, right? And you know, I've messed around with other types of apps that have some of this stuff that goes on, right? Like none of them as advanced or as yours, but you know, you get to mess up a lot during the process, and it feels good, right? Because you don't necessarily focus on the things you didn't get right, but you're focusing on the fact that, hey, I've never done this before, and I got 40% of this stuff to right the first time through, right? And then
glass half full sort of thing.
That's right. But then you learn as you go through the first time, and so by the time you see it the second time, you're like, oh, wait a minute, I saw this before. Now I'm nailing some of the stuff that was a surprise to me, and so I feel like that guy. I'd be like, no, I did great. I'm not going to stop.
Awesome. That's so awesome. Your threshold for failure is so much higher than mine. And again, no fault on me. Like this is a personal thing. It's so personalized. And I think this is something that nobody's really ever talked about. It's like, when it comes to learning, when it comes to skill acquisition and education, if we can get to a place where we're personalizing that learning to the individual, I think there's something there. I wonder what a world would be where we were all kind of learning separately, and then what we did was immediately applied what we had learned to a group activity. Okay. There might be something there, and it's so personal. It's based on how you're doing and how you like to learn.
Right.
And that's kind of where we're going with this, right? That's the future of Museflow, where we can understand. We're building it so that we're training an AI right now to be able to recognize patterns in people's playing, so that say for example, you're getting this interval wrong, in this level, this one specific interval between maybe C and E, right? You're just constantly messing it up, and it's most of the time it's always in quarter notes. So we're like, and it's always in the right hand. Okay, well, we don't really know why you're messing that up, but what we can do is give you more of that, so that through exposure therapy, you can practice that micro skill over and over and over more often than you are with other micro skills, so that we can increase your proficiency on that micro skill to get you on parity with all the other micro skills that you're learning throughout the, and these are so intersectional, these patterns, that we wouldn't be able to define every single pattern. So that that's why we have to kind of train an AI to be able to recognize those patterns. Because there's billions. There's billions of patterns that might occur in a user's playing. So we can't define those right off the bat.
But that's the power of having access to and using AI in a way that can enhance what you're able to do, right? Yeah. So because if I were to rewind and go way back, and the first time I picked up a French horn or the marching equivalent, the mellophone, and tried to mess around with it, if I had some AI that could help me understand what in the world I was doing wrong over and over again, then it would have been cool, right? Like, it would have been a neat way to learn things, which I think is one of the big advantages of all the changes in technology. We've never been able to do this before. Yeah. And now we can, which I think is going to open up the door for a lot of people who are maybe, again, afraid to go down the learning path.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're building it so it's very lightweight. It's not going to be data centers all over the place and really, ruining people's, water and electricity. No. It's going to be a very lightweight, AI, so that we can just have that. We're thinking either it's going to be in the device itself, or we're going to be able to download it to your device. It's going to be in the cache on the front end. So it's going to be, we're making sure that it's very, very lightweight and it's very quick. We got to make sure that that's the case, because we're not here to make billions. We're here to help education, right?
Yeah.
And it's got to be the most accessible. And so universal accessibility is very important to us. That's one thing we talk about, democratizing music education. I think that's a very noble pursuit, and I want to keep working within that frame,
Well, actually, how do people find out more about Museflow?
Just go to our website, museflow.ai. Take a gander. You can start your free trial right there if you want to. Right now, you do need a MIDI compatible keyboard. Okay. Basically, a keyboard that just jacks into your laptop. You do have to use your laptop right now. It's a browser-based web app right now, so you have to use Chrome or Edge. Those are the two browsers that are most compatible. And just go for it. Sign up, try it out. Let me know what you think. I'd love to offer your listeners a coupon code.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great. Cool, that would be awesome. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Let's call it Remarkable 50.
I love it.
And so it'll get you 50% off for life.
Oh, wow.
So look, we're still very much at our early stages of this whole thing. We have about 60 people that are using this on a daily basis, regularly. They're paying for it and everything like that, and we don't know them. So it's out there and it's usable, it's accessible. You can definitely use it. We're building it out. We're really scaling this right now, building out the exercise section and the theory section where you can do deeper dives into concepts you're interested in, adding in a lot of that pattern recognition, the AI. We're building out Unit 2 for piano, and then slowly we're going to build out other instruments, right? So, and we're building an app. And we're building audio recognition. We've got a lot of things going on.
There's a lot. Wow.
It's a big lift. And so we had to find out what our minimum viable product was. And our minimum viable product was a web-based sight reading trainer that had songs that get unlocked. So like we had to find a way to get this out there and user test it and see if there was a fit. And there is. And people are really liking it. It's amazing. So let's call it Remarkable 50.
I love that.
Interested.
I love that. I love that. So I am going to be keeping track of things for Museflow, because not only am I curious about the current product, but I'm very interested in the move to mobile devices. But I'm also interested in some of the instrument training that will come after piano. You can't see the rest of this room, but I decided to convert part of the house and do a true studio setup, because I was using my office and I was having to set it up, break it down, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, yeah. And as part of doing this part of the house, I bought a cello. So I have a cello and it's sitting in this corner over here. And I have never played a string instrument before. But I started thinking, you know what? Cello, the strings are farther apart. If I'm going to try this, I can probably be better to try it on cello. So I eventually have to have cello lessons, but here's the plug for you guys to move to cellos so I can use Museflow to learn to play this cello.
100%, man. Give it 2 to 5 years and it'll be ready for you. Right?
Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough.
That's so awesome. I love your predisposition to wanting to learn all these different instruments. That's so cool. And it sounds like it came very organically for you too. Started off with sax, and then because you were in church, you were very interested in the piano. Yeah. And so you sat next to how did that happen? Just out of curiosity, if you don't mind me asking.
No, I don't mind.
How did you facilitate you sitting next to the pianist? Was it a family friend, or did your parents facilitate that?
No, I would go and talk to her before service would start and after service would start. And then I would go to choir practice that was not my choir practice. And I would listen to the other choir's practice, and I'd watch her. And she eventually just said, "Stop being a stalker." Like, and I was like, I'm glad you said something, because I was just gonna keep sitting here watching you forever and ever and ever. And so so I got to come and sit next to her, and I would share the bench, and she would play things and I would watch her play things, and then I would try to mimic that like an octave below, or a couple of octaves below, so that I could actually do it while she was doing it. And eventually she would quietly sit on the side and I would play the music. And then she would swap back when it was stuff that I didn't know. And it was kind of cool, because people never really knew. Like my parents would know, because I'd come home and tell them, well, during that part of the service, that was me, that was not her. And
so cool.
Yeah. And so, but it was a really cool experience.
Wow. Awesome. Good for you for like tenacity, man. Just like sitting there because you're interested in the instrument. Wow. Bold. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool,
fun.
Man.
It was fun.
I think what a life lesson, right? If you're interested, just make it happen, man. Just like go
That's right.
and sit and watch and digest. And then eventually somebody's going to notice and be like, do you want to join?
Yeah. Yeah. And I try to be open to that today, right? So if I notice there's a kid or a person who's really just interested in whatever it is that is going on or that I'm doing, like I always try to, do you want to help? Do you want to, because people, they don't get that all the time. Right. No, and so it'd be a shame for someone who wanting to learn something and they don't necessarily say anything if you don't kind of give them that opportunity. And so I try to do that all the time. So
it really is a shame if they have an interest in something and the process to entry for a lot of these things to like learn it traditionally is like, it's just so high.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And so to open up those doors in this sort of mentor-mentee sort of way, I love that. I feel like we need more of that in our world.
Yeah, I think it's part of the reason that I really enjoy being able to have conversations with people like you. People ask me often, how come you decided to do a podcast. And part of it was that I spend a lot of windshield time for work. And so in my travels, you hear the news. It is never really good. You hear all of the infamous things, but you don't really get to spend time listening to people talk about things that are positive or doing things that are for the good of everybody, right? And so I thought to myself, I know some of these people. I could talk to some of these people. I'm going to find people who do good things, and we're going to talk about it. And so here we are.
That's so cool, man. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think that goes back to our predisposition for needing the negative information to like guide our lives moving forward. Just I think we care again. So I said this before, like care so deeply about the negative because it's kept us alive. And unfortunately, that's the most clickbaity thing. That's the newsworthy thing.
It is.
You know, it's what our news cycles are. It is informing the public of the negative things going on in the world so that we can better prepare for the future, hopefully. You know, crossing our fingers that the news does help us prepare for the future.
For sure. Well, Patrick, thank you so much for spending part of your day with me. This has absolutely been fantastic. And I wish you and the team all the best on Museflow. But I'm holding you to it. So if you're getting emails from me about where's the cello, like I'm really serious about that part.
Okay, great. Yeah. We're building out the audio recognition right now, which is like you can have your device sitting there wherever it wants, and it'll listen to you. Okay.
Yeah.
Because there isn't like a MIDI compatible cello right now, right? And so we need to be able to open the doors. This is another version of opening up the door. This is just a part of that, right?
That's right.
Getting this audio recognition in there. And so a lot of our competitors have that. We want that too. That'll allow us to open it up for other instruments. And then it's just about writing the pedagogy in this sort of like flow, iterative skill acquisition outside the context of songs sort of way, you know? And so, we'll hit you up when we have questions on that.
Sure. That sounds great. It's been fantastic to meet you. And hopefully we'll get to talk again soon.
Yeah, you too, man. Thank you so much for having me.
If you've made it this far, then I have to thank you for your time. I hope you've learned something new and enjoyed listening to the discussion as much as I enjoyed having it. I'd love to hear from you about the show because we're working really hard to bring you great content and the feedback really helps us get better. If you like what you've heard or watched, for those of you who are streaming out on YouTube, then take a split second to give us a thumbs up or a like. It really helps other people like you find the show too. And no one likes to miss out on the good stuff. So go ahead and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't have to wonder when or if there's a new episode. And until next time, stay remarkable.